One of the biggest choices we can make in our lives is to be a parent. And as parents, we have the responsibility to care for our children and teach them, even when what we need to teach them might be difficult to talk about at first. For my guest today, Cerina Vincent, she realized following George Floyd's death that as a mom, she wasn't doing enough to teach her child about diversity. And that horrific moment in history gave her the push she needed to make a difference. You're listening to We Need to Talk. So you got something to say that is on your mind. We need to talk about it. You know, just one conversation can change your life. We need to talk about it. We need to talk. Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of We Need to Talk. My guest today is an actress and author. She's best known for her roles on Power Rangers and Stuck in the Middle. And today she's here to talk about her new children's book, Everybody Has a Belly Button. Cerina Vincent, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Malynda. I'm really grateful to speak with you about this.
Absolutely. You do so much, and I understand that you are an actress, you're a podcast host, you're an author, and you're a mom, which is the most important job that we can have, of course. And one of the things I really love about people that are involved in a lot of different mediums is when they use their platforms to educate and to bring awareness. And I know that 2020 was a rough year for a lot of people, not only the pandemic, but also there was a huge shift culturally when George Floyd died. And you were one of those people that had a shift in just everything in awareness. And that situation inspired you to write your new children's book, Everybody Has a Belly Button. But what was it about that specific situation that made you want to do something to bring awareness?
Wow. It just sort of happened, intuitively as I watched in horror with the rest of the world what was going on. I was watching it on the news with the murder of George Floyd. At that time, my son, Nico, was 14 months old. So he was in the high chair and I was feeding him and literally like saying like, this is your nose, here's your belt pointing. Here's your belly button. Here's your nose. Here's your eyes. How we teach our kids where their body parts are. It was that was the phase I was in.
Yeah.
And I watched in horror, what happened that day that none of us will ever forget. And I was like, no, what am I doing right this second to teach my 14-month-old about skin color, about race, about racism, about equality, about equity, about all of it? What am I doing? Nothing. I wasn't doing anything until then. I mean, I grew up Italian and like we have a lot of like culture and different all different colors and races and friends and people in our lives, but I wasn't really calling it out, And it just sort of hit me. It came to me that like right now is the time, just as I teach him about where his body parts are, I should also be teaching him about our skin color, our similarities and our differences and what that means.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just made up this little poem and he loved it. And then I put him down for a nap and I wrote it. I literally wrote the book like in a nap. And so I felt like it was just that one of those creative, inspired moments where I was so devastated that out came this just one tiny piece. It's right. This is just like a tiny conversation starter that if this book helps parents start the conversation about pointing out differences and similarities, then yay, because we all need to start somewhere.
Absolutely. And I personally love that you chose a children's book because I think, that is the age when you should start having these conversations, when it is that innocence and they actually don't really know, but you're bringing them into the world to say, hey, this is how everybody is. This is how we treat people. And I think that is such a beautiful thing. And I know you mentioned your family, growing up around a lot of cultures, but what were conversations about race and equality like in your household when you were growing up?
Well, that's the great question. That's the thing is, there weren't any really. Not in the way that we're having them now. I mean, I think we're going through a really tragic, terrible time, but I also think we have a whole movement of parents that are parenting more consciously and are having these conversations. But my mother was a dance teacher and she taught all the kids in the Las Vegas Valley dance class. We had all kinds of different people in our lives. But I went to a school this was really interesting. I went to a school that in Las Vegas where all of the schools in North Las Vegas, which were sort of the lower income part of town, mainly Black and Latinx communities.
Hmm.
They bussed all of the kids from those areas into our where into like the spring wherever middle class neighborhoods.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we all went to school together,
Okay.
which was really, really cool, right? I didn't even know that the city was doing that until sixth grade. In sixth grade, they turned all the schools in the lower income areas of town into sixth grade centers. And then we all went to sixth grade in the lower income areas. And that was my first time riding a bus and my first time seeing where my friends that I went to school with actually lived,
Mm.
because I'm talking about like K through 5,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was an extremely empathetic child. And like I intuitively knew, oh, I remember feeling like, oh, we don't have the same opportunities.
Mm.
And but I couldn't like articulate that stuff, right? In those kinds of words. But I remember feeling that.
Yeah.
And then I remember thinking, oh, I like later on, because I felt so much, oh, maybe that means I'm like colorblind. And no, right? We've learned a lot in this last year. That's not the right thing to say or
Right.
think. And so anyway, to long-winded answer to your question, we weren't having the kind of conversations in my house that I want to be having with my child now. I grew up from a very loving, wonderful, wonderful family, but we weren't talking about it how I think that in the serious way that we need to talk about
Yeah.
systemic racism.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think that in part the reason we're having those conversations more is just because we are exposed to it more through social media and how we are interacting with each other, or do you think that back then there was just kind of like if you don't talk about it, it's not a thing?
It's a really good question. I don't know. I used to hear stories about like from my grandfather, him telling stories like his best friend was Black and
Hmm.
and he owned a bar, but then like he could like work at the bar, but like couldn't do other things together.
Yeah.
And that like broke my heart. Like I would hear stories like that. So I don't know what's happening now. I think social media is like a blessing and a curse.
Yes.
Um,
For sure. For sure.
but whatever it is that's making us talk about it more and making white people like more active I think that white people, I think that we don't know what to say, right? And so you say nothing, but that's not the right thing to do either.
Right. Right.
Anyway,
Right. Right.
I just am happy that we are talking about what needs to be talked about. And I think it's really important that if we can teach our kids all the things that we teach them from the time they're teeny tiny babies, then why can't we teach them about this immediately?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that, as I mentioned, and you weren't alone in being one of those people that felt motivated to kind of spring into action after this horrific situation happened. And so many people it was a light bulb for them to realize, oh, this country has so much work to do, right? And,
Yeah.
and it's unfortunate because I know my parents, they grew up in Mississippi and Louisiana and the South. And for them, like my dad was very emotional because he was a teenager when the situation with Emmett Till happened. And so for him, he was like, that was my George Floyd. And they were so heartbroken because they didn't think having their two daughters would ever have to witness that type of thing that they witnessed when they were our age, right? So to me, it's such a obviously a horrible situation, but in a way, I feel grateful that the light bulb came on for so many people because look how long it took, and I hate that it had to come down to the death of a human being for people to make that change, but we have come, a long way. I feel like even since 2020, in the last 2 years, a lot of people have made some progress. But my question to you is, how have you managed to find a balance between feeling like, through writing a book, that you're not capitalizing on a serious situation, but you're using the situation to bring awareness?
It's a really good question. Like, I talked to my publicist about this. I'm like, maybe I shouldn't say that maybe I shouldn't mention the George Floyd thing at all, because I don't want that to seem
Hmm.
I don't want it to feel that way.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
also, like, I also don't want to, like, I am a white woman. I am a privileged white woman. I mean, I'm also a starving artist hustling, like,
yeah,
in a
right.
crazy,
Absolutely.
like,
Absolutely.
but like, let's, like, that's, in this situation, that's what I am, and I don't want it to come off that way. Um, and So I just hope that, I like to think that I am authentic and honest, and I don't do things unless it comes from a place of authenticity.
For sure.
I won't even, I can't even fake it in a when I'm acting.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so I hope that people will find the beauty in this book. And I wrote it for every baby on the planet and every baby to come. I wrote it for our children. It's
Yeah.
something for parents to read. I guess that I was concerned about that. I was concerned about that. And I guess I don't really know how to answer that, other than
Well,
I just hope if people
from
find the book moving and
yeah,
their children like it, then it'll, soften that.
from my viewpoint, what I found to be very authentic about it is because you're a mom and
Yeah.
you had that realization of, you know what? And especially, I know so many mothers, it clicked for them when George Floyd was calling out for his mother.
I was just gonna say that. I was a new mother,
Yeah.
and when he was calling for mama, I'm like, it's like there was that meme going around, like, all the mothers of the world, like, were on fire, like, lit
Yeah.
from the inside. And that's,
Yeah.
um
And so
yeah, how
that's
I
what I
felt.
appreciate about it because you're like, "Oh, you were able to have empathy in that moment and be like, if that were my child, like, you know what I mean?" And I think that that's what was a light bulb moment for a lot of people that
Yeah,
like, "Oh, that's what connects all of us. We all have a mother.
we all
We
have a
all
mom.
have a father." You know what I mean? So for you to create this book with something as simple as a belly button, I love that. Like when I read the title, I was like, oh my God, that's so beautiful because I think the more people realize what our similarities are, I think that that's what's going to get us to a place of more racial unity in the
Yeah,
future. And, we know that our children are weird who they learn from, right? And that's why I think that this book is a really great way to start conversations. But for parents that are having a difficult time having those conversations, how would you encourage them to just start, whether it's with your book or not? But how would you encourage them to start, especially if they're coming from a place of privilege?
great question. Well, I think there's a lot of other books out there that probably go deeper than my book. Everybody Has a Belly Button, like Anti-Racist Baby, just like calls it out, and I read
Hmm.
that book to my son, and so that's a favorite in our house. But what I love about our book, and I want to talk about the art for a second.
Yeah.
It was really important to me to find an artist of color. I wanted a Black woman to do the art. And so my publisher and I, my editor and I, we reached out to a lot of different artists, and we got a lot of passes. And so I just scoured Instagram.
I love it.
And
That's one of the blessings of social media right
oh
there.
my gosh. And I found Zoe Hunter, who is extraordinary. She's an extraordinary young artist. And she brought this to life in such a magical way. And it was very important to me that every baby can see themselves in there. You're a
Yeah.
mom. Babies
Yeah.
love to see other babies, right? So
Absolutely.
the book is full of babies, all colors, all shades, all sizes, hair, eyes, all of it. And she did such a brilliant job bringing it to life that I just got them in hand, right, last night, and I read it to Nico last night. He's seen the pictures, like, as we're going through, like, on my phone, but like, we got to hold it last night,
Mm.
and we stopped on every page, and he was pointing things out. And so I think that this it's a really like whimsical lyrical rhyme about the rainbow of skin colors and our similarities and differences. But I think if you stop on every page and you really like look at the different there's also a page, a spread in here with different types of families, two moms and two dads, and it's everything, right? That if you, that there are so many deeper conversations to have with this book, within this book, with
Yeah.
you know. So I did it last night with my child. So
I love that.
because we it's not just about skin color. It's about just we have some deep problems in
Yes,
this.
yes, but you gotta start somewhere, and I
Yeah,
and I do
yeah.
love that this is a great starter conversation for sure. But I do wanna go back, to Zoe because I do love that you picked she's a young, Black, talented female illustrator, but what was it about her illustrations and her artwork that you were really drawn to for your book?
I wanted I wanted something that felt whimsical and watercolors, and I just had this like picture in my head, and my editor had the same vision. And so it was just like there she was like the one. You
Mhm.
know what I
I
mean?
love that, yeah.
And I was searching Twitter, I was searching Instagram, and I was searching the hashtag drawing while black. It's a hashtag.
Wow, yeah.
And that's how I found her. And
Amazing.
and she's extraordinary. She's extraordinary.
Yeah.
And she's, yeah, a beautiful,
And
beautiful.
only 18, which is
Only 18, yeah.
well, that's amazing. I love that, and I love that you gave her that opportunity, and I'm sure I can only imagine how honored she is to be a part of this.
Well, look, like I couldn't have done it without her. Like this was collaborative. I wrote the words, but like it's a picture book for babies. You don't can't have
Yeah.
a picture book without the pictures. So it is
Right.
50-50, 100%, and
Yeah.
so uh yeah, we're a team. I hope to do more books with her. I hope we can make it
Yeah.
a thing.
Yeah, make it a series of
Yeah.
teaching tools in a fun way.
Exactly.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
We need more books like that. We do. We truly do, and I love that you're starting that. So congrats on that for
Thank
sure.
you.
The
Thank
other
you.
thing about your book, obviously, we've talked about, promoting that we're all the same, but acknowledging our differences as something positive because I feel like too often, and you even mentioned this, we get into that mindset of colorblindness really
Mhm.
too often, thinking, and the intention behind colorblindness is a good thing. I don't think it comes from a place of malintent, but we've realized that when you say you're colorblind, you're actually erasing the unique aspects of somebody's identity. So, how were you personally able to find a balance between those two of acknowledging our differences while also acknowledging our similarities without erasing unique aspects of your identity?
Well, I was trying to sort of equate it to or relate it to rainbows, it like
Mm,
for our children to understand it. I was trying there's a lot of rainbows in the book, and Zoe did a beautiful job again with bringing those to life. Was like a rainbow, like whenever we see a rainbow, right, it's just like it's like so magical and unique and special. Like whenever you see a rainbow in the sky, everybody stops to look at the rainbow,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
and um and um and it's special. So I was sort of like relating it to that, like if we didn't have the rainbow of colors, we wouldn't have a rainbow, and that
Yeah,
is what makes us beautiful. And when
yeah.
you see all these babies lined up in a row, all the different colors, skin colors, it's so beautiful. So again, this is for our youngest readers, right? This is for our babies and toddlers. So and that is how I tried to articulate that. Also, there's a page in there, a spread in there about how everybody is unique. I'll just read some of it.
Yeah, please.
Everybody is unique. Some are freckled, bald, short, or tall. Some teach, build, dance, or play ball. Some wear glasses, have beards, are wide or thin. Some make clean or cook, be a doctor or twin. Some have wheelchairs or scars or special
Mm,
needs. Some may not see and some may not speak, but all the differences, all aglow, make everybody special like a rainbow. So I tried to call out like all of the things. Like kids are not
it's
just going to
so inclusive.
with yeah, like we with different colored skin. We're going to school with kids with special needs and kids in wheelchairs and
Yeah.
kids. And so I was trying to to talk about those differences as well.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter what our differences are because we are all the same inside.
I
We all.
love that. I love that.
Well, I don't
It's
know
like
if I executed it, but like,
no, I'm sure you I mean, just you reading that little part, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so inclusive and just and loving." It comes from such a place of love. That's what I'm gathering from it, and I think that that's so important. But also, that's the mom in you, right?
it is.
Everything you
Yeah.
do is operating from a
I
place
wrote
of
it.
love.
Look, I wrote it for Nico.
Yeah.
I wrote it for him. I didn't know that anybody would pick it up, right? Oh, I did. I went to a couple different, I got a few passes on it. So if nobody wanted to, publish the book, it was just going to be for him and to teach
Yeah.
my own son
Yeah.
in this cute little rhyme and poem. But now everybody baby gets
Everybody gets to.
that's cool.
Everybody gets to. I love that. And again, as I said many many times before, I just love that it's a children's book and it's a way to start because I do know that these conversations are very difficult to have, and I do know that a lot of parents shy away from having these
Yeah.
conversations. But even in your own personal journey, or even in conversations maybe you've had with other parents, why do you think it is so difficult for parents to talk about race and equality? And why you think that they think that like young kids shouldn't be having those conversations?
That's a great question. I think they don't know what to say.
Hmm.
I think they don't know what to say.
Yeah.
I think that I think that everybody knows that not all kids have the same opportunities because of skin color, and that is really, really sad.
And it's hard to explain.
How do you explain that? And so that's what I think. And I also think that I want to keep this positive, but I think that we have a lot of racist people, obviously, in our country, in our world.
And
So
running the country,
that's another,
unfortunately.
that's another piece of it. But I feel
Yeah.
like for all of the parents out there who don't classify themselves as racist, I think that if they're not talking about it, it's because they don't know what to say. And
Mm,
and I am one of those people. I feel like I I had to I that this 2020, I was like, well, yep, I have some books that I should be reading and I need to be learning. I don't know what I don't know,
yeah.
and I can learn more, and I think we all need to be. I'm one of those people that I'm willing to be wrong. Like
Hmm.
I know what I don't know, and I'm like eager to learn. So I think that as parents, we need to be open to whatever it is, learning about the new parenting method and learning about toxins in foods and learning how to talk to your kids about race.
Yeah.
We have to be open to learning. That's what my podcast is about. It's called Raising Amazing. It's
Yeah.
about raising the bar on ourselves as humans and as parents so we can raise a next amazing generation. We
Yeah.
gotta like turn the ship around.
Absolutely. I think also it's difficult to admit that you don't know something also, because especially if you're raising a child, you have the sole responsibility to teach them and make them be a good human. If you don't know the answer to something, you never want your kid to think that, right? But I feel like there's a level of respect and admiration that will come if you say, "Hey, I don't know the answer," but then you can find it out together, you know? You
That's
can
great.
do
That's
that. You
that's
can
a
do that work together, you
That's a
know?
really great. You're ahead of me in motherhood, right? That's great. I'm gonna use that. How old are your kids?
My child she's gonna be 2.
Oh, I thought you had an older one. No.
No, no,
Oh,
my first one. I'm a pandemic mom, yeah.
yeah.
She's 2 going on 13, which I'm sure you know what that's
So
like.
sweet. So sweet.
Yeah, but I was very, very lucky to have my mother's an educator, so, like, I was always in school, like, 24/7 no matter what, but she was very, very, open, and, my dad let her lead a lot, but she's very open about everything with my sister and I growing up, so I feel like I was blessed in that to have her, and I am imparting that on my daughter as well, just that
No,
education and those conversations at a very, very early age.
that's so wonderful. It is. It's
Yeah.
priceless.
It is priceless. Absolutely, absolutely. But you have a responsibility, and I think being humble and knowing when you don't know something, admitting when you're wrong, if everybody would take those steps and know that it's okay. I feel like people think that you have to be a perfect parent in that way. You have to be perfect for this, but it's like no, this is our first time being humans, right? Like we're
Right.
going through life trying to figure it out on a day-to-day basis. So we just have to give ourselves some grace with these situations.
And raising humans, and
Yeah.
yeah, I don't, yeah,
Who
it's
knows, right? Like it's your first time having a kid, like there's really no manual on how to do it because every kid's different. So you just have to take it a day to day for sure.
yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
yeah, every day Googling something new.
Yeah.
How do I do this?
Google is a parent's best friend, except it's
Like,
your worst friend. Also, if you're looking up symptoms, I
oh
don't
my God,
recommend.
the worst in the middle of the night. Oh, the worst.
My husband has had to be like, get off of the phone.
You
She's
know,
fine. Yeah. I was like, but she has this, she has this, right? We go crazy Googling things. It's very, very funny.
crazy. Yeah.
But over the last couple of years, obviously the entire world is thrown into a frenzy because of the pandemic and also racial injustice. But even through the process of writing this book, over the last couple of years, what do you feel that you've learned about yourself? But also, what have you learned about yourself when it comes to the work that you still need to do and will continue to do in terms of promoting racial equality?
That's a great question. I mean, I do feel like it is that what I learned about myself was, oh, I wasn't reading books from Black authors. I mean,
Hmm.
I have, but I wasn't like seeking it out. It
Yeah.
wasn't like that wasn't something that was like, well, let me dive more into this. I learned that about myself, and I learned a lot, and now like I said before, like I know when I don't know something, and I'm totally willing to be wrong
Hmm.
and do it better. Um, um, and I stand by that. Like I just know that I still have a lot more to learn, and I definitely 100% don't want to come across as a privileged as a privileged white person, you know, trying to make money off of George Floyd's or whatever.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
No, like that is not it. Like that's I wrote that on that day. I
Hmm.
wrote this book on that day in that moment.
Yeah.
And it came from my heart because I hadn't at that point been very specifically teaching my child about our similarities and our differences. And I needed to.
Hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, so this is one tiny part, and I have a whole lot more to learn. And I think when everybody understands that nobody knows everything, and that we can all learn from each other and learn from each other's experiences, we're gonna have a much more peaceful world.
Couldn't
If
agree
there.
more. I think that your willingness to learn, to continue to do better and educate others, and again, using your platform to do that is so crucial. And I feel like if you have any form of an audience or any form of a following, you have to be speaking out about something. And so
Yeah.
I love that this is what you chose to do. And I hope everyone goes out and gets your book. Can you let everyone know where they can get your book when it comes out and where they can follow you on social media as well?
Yes, thank you. It's called Everybody Has a Belly Button, and you can get it Amazon, Barnes and Noble. It's at Target, which I'm really excited about.
Oh,
Books a Million, so all bookstores.
great.
And you can follow me on social media at Cerina Vincent, Cerina Vincent. The book has one as well. Everybody Has a Belly Button. We've gotten a lot of great endorsements from doctors and parents, and so you can go there and read what everyone else thinks about it. But
Love
most
it.
importantly, I just really hope that I hope people do buy it, because I think that it is a really sweet beginning to a much bigger conversation.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me.
Thank
You have such a great energy about you, such a beautiful light. So thank you so
you.
much.
See in me what you have in you. You have the same
Oh,
thing. So thank you. Thank
thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you.
And to the listeners, thank you for your weekly support of We Need to Talk. Make sure you like, comment, share, review, and most importantly, subscribe. Thank you to Stephen James, our theme song writer and producer. And remember, everything begins with a conversation.